Well, there is growing concern and some uncertainty around the legalization of cannabis. That's according to a survey conducted by Dalhousie University. Sylvain Charlebois is the senior director of the Agri-food Analytics Lab at the university, and he did the survey. Thanks for being with us.
My pleasure.
So let's start with the headline here. You would think as we head, 9 months in, 10 months in, that people would start to feel comfortable, that they get it. It seems as though they're maybe less sure about what they think about cannabis than they were before legalization. What do we make of that?
Well, that's what we were expecting as well. We actually went to field back in 2017 before cannabis was legalized, and we compared our data set with a new one. We went back to field just a couple of months ago to see what the sentiment was around edibles, and we actually realized that people are less enthusiastic about edibles and unsure about this whole project about legalizing cannabis generally. So the support has gone down, and the intent to purchase an edible product has gone down as well significantly over 2 years.
So one of the things I find so interesting about this, of course, is that once you introduce the legal market, you would think and expect and hope that the illegal market would go away. It has not yet done that. I think people who were buying pot before are still buying it from the same place, whatever the store was that was existing illegally. Edibles are already here, Sylvain. You can walk down the street outside our office and buy an edible. We don't know where they're coming from. We don't know who made them.
Don't tell anyone.
Well, you can also get them online pretty easily. What about the quality and safety issue? I mean, when this is a food, after all, it's a food product, or maybe we should classify it as a drug, but either way, who's looking at it?
Well, this is the thing, Amanda. If you look at the regulatory framework presented by Health Canada, it is really, edibles are going to be treated like a drug and not as a food product. And that has disappointed many investors, consumers, frankly, and that's why there's probably less enthusiasm. Our concern really by applying such a restrictive framework is that you may actually encourage the black market to expand, and which was really the intent. The initial intent of the government was to actually put a lid on the black market. Now, of course, with Health Canada's approach, if it's too strict, you're likely to see the opposite, and right now you're seeing most companies in that space are spending a lot of time overseas looking at other potential markets other than Canada. And if we actually see this framework being adopted, that kind of activity will only continue.
So when people express their concern or their uncertainty about the edible space, I know a certain amount of that has to do with basic safety issues around children, access to the product. Are those the key issues, or is it just it's such an unknown to so many people?
Pets are always a concern as well. I'm not sure if you looked at the difference between pets and children. It's almost the exact same. People are concerned about pets, and we've seen incidences across the country about related to pets and unfortunately with children. And I've received several reports from different people across the country telling me that they've gone through unpleasant experiences, and I suspect that that has gone out in the public. And that's probably why people are not as keen to try that cannabis-infused muffin or candy once it becomes legalized in October.
You actually wrote an article recently, and the headline, I know you probably didn't write the headline, but the headline grabbed me, and it was that we're conducting this global social experiment, which is sort of what I felt about cannabis legalization in general. We kind of rushed headlong into it. We don't really know the long-term health effects. We think they're benign, but we're not sure. How serious is it when we introduce these new products, and we really don't know the effect on the population?
Actually, it's Janet Music, my co-author, and I that came up with this social experiment theme because really that's exactly what we are. In a couple of weeks from now, I'm actually down in New Orleans at the big IFT show. It's the largest food science show in the world, and I'll be presenting our study to Americans, and that's exactly how we'll position our study. I mean, Canada is really a social experiment, and we have yet to see exactly how things unfold over several years. I do expect things to change. I do expect the market to mature, and as a result, perhaps regulations will change over time.
Do you expect to see a lot of innovation around? I mean, we're just beginning to understand, the difference between THC and CBD and how they can be used and their various medical uses especially. Are we just going to see an explosion of new products as we go down the road?
Probably, but hopefully we'll see an explosion or an increase in the understanding of what cannabis is. We don't really know much about cannabis, and there is a difference between CBD and THC, and we are expecting CBD to be much more popular with, with the food businesses overall.
But what are some of the worst case scenarios as we conduct this global social experiment? What could go wrong here?
Well, of course, you need a couple of cases. You need a major sort of situation to really discourage anyone from distributing these products, of course. And overseas, there is some interest in legalizing cannabis and edibles. We'll see how things go. But overall, I do believe that there's a bit of a concern across the board in regards to regulations. I know that Health Canada is very careful. You see, 3 years ago, the Canadian government invited the entire country, all Canadians, to this mega party with great music, great balloons, only to end up in some church basement with, bad music.
All right, well, we'll see if the party ever gets started. Sylvain, I appreciate your time today.